Okay, while my carcass is cooking behind me, I wanted to show you, this is how I freeze the stock. This is the perfect size, this little quart freezer bag. Make sure, again, it's a freezer bag because it's nice and heavy. And this is it holds 2 cups perfectly, and 2 cups is a really good size for most recipes. But we both have been known to open this up and chip it up. This is what I do with chicken stock too and veggie stock. I freeze them in these size bags. And when you freeze them, just a tip, I lay them in a pan and I just, I measured in, and when it's liquid, I lay them in a pan so that it's this way, so that the zipper is up. If you lay it down, it might leak out. But I lay it up like this, like on the ridge of the pan or whatever, or I bump another one up against this bag or whatever, lay the top of the zipper on top of here so that it's not flat. And then when it freezes, once it's solid, it doesn't matter how it lays. And then I take them off the pan and I just stack them in the freezer. But you can put a lot of these in a little tiny freezer space in your refrigerator. So this is really cool to do. Okay, but this is for our dinner. So I'm going to just pass this back here. And now another thing about harvesting, of course, like I also cleaned out the garden, and we had the beans. I don't know if I mentioned that. I think I had a picture of the beans up on my blog. But the beans, you let them dry up on the vine, up on the trellises, and then when they're completely dry, the seeds just fall right out. And these are the seeds. And keep them, they have to stay really, really dry. So of course I store them always in glass. And be sure to put in there either a label in the jar, or I stuck the tag inside the jar here to show me what it was. These happen to be Pole Kentucky Wonder, Pole Bean Kentucky Wonder. And these were really, really good. Okay, so the beans got ripped out of the garden. Tomatoes, the very end of the tomatoes got taken out. I think some of the tomatoes wanted to go all winter, but we finally took those out. And the very last thing we did with the tomatoes that were left, we had a combination of tomatoes and a recipe that works beautifully for using all kinds of different tomatoes is tomato jam. And tomato jam, I was really kind of new to tomato jam until a friend of mine turned me on to tomato jam. It is the best thing in the world. Best thing in the world. And I canned it in both these this one and, what is this, a pint, and this is like a half pint. Because this is a perfect size for just like a real small get together, or for my husband and I to have as a little treat. And the way I eat it, which is how my friend taught me to eat it, is is my dog throwing out?
No.
Oh, he's just licking himself. Excuse me. It's a water cracker. Is that the right word, water cracker? Like a plain cracker. It doesn't have a lot of flavor. A spoon of this tomato jam and a little tiny slice of white cheddar cheese, like a sharp cheddar, is the best snack. I'm not kidding you. Once you have that, you'll never want anything else ever. So I have a bunch of these jars in 2 different sizes. This is good for, the reason I did a lot of these is because if I opened this, my husband and I would eat that jar. We would eat the jar. Okay? So the end of the tomatoes, the end of the beans. The other thing that I'm doing right now is pumpkin. Remember I told you I had a volunteer pumpkin this year, and that's this one. I also had pumpkins that I used because I did not plant, other than that I did not plant pumpkins this year, but we all get pumpkins for the Samhain season and for the Thanksgiving season, and I've had them out on the stoop and different places in the yard to decorate, and we had them. And this is something that you can use. People spread these rumors that once you cut a pumpkin for a jack-o'-lantern, you have to throw it away. That's nonsense, number one. That's absolute nonsense. You can cook that pumpkin, and they're not all created equal. That's true. They're not all the great sweet pumpkin, but I have yet to find a pumpkin really that was not really good. And I've cooked in frozen pumpkin pulp for quite a few years, all different kinds of pumpkins. And I've made pies out of them. I made pumpkin bread out of them. So I freeze them in the same size bag as I freeze the pulp, that is. I freeze the turkey, chicken, and veggie stocks, those little quart bags. It holds 2 cups, just like a can of pumpkin. Same thing. And I mark in the freezer as 2 cups, and I freeze them flat, and they take up a little room, and they make wonderful pies. Now this is my volunteer pumpkin. This is what I do with it. This is what it looks like. Doesn't look very lovely now, but I took that pumpkin and I quartered it. Quartered the pumpkin, and I scooped out the seeds. And the seeds from the volunteer pumpkin, because I was so excited about it being a volunteer pumpkin, I dried and saved to plant again because it was a really good strain. It makes a beautiful little, this is one of those beautiful little sweet little, what do you call these pumpkins? Sugar pumpkin, little sugar pumpkin, which is the exact kind you want for pie. This is the kind that you get in the pie can, I think, if you buy the can of pumpkin. And this is probably what it is. But I use, again, I've used all different kinds. So those, I'm saving those seeds. But I also had some jack-o'-lanterns, not jack-o'-lanterns, they weren't really cut, but I've done it with jack-o'-lanterns in the past. And I did the same thing with those. These are bigger, and I roasted them on a tray in the oven, like 375 oven or whatever. Scooped out the seeds until they get soft, until you can sort of push on the, you know, they sort of get a, as you can see, they sort of get a crust here. But as a matter of fact, if I pushed on it here, it would give. And it doesn't matter if it's up or down, when you put it in the, on the baking sheet. I put it up usually, and then sometimes I turn it over, because you always sort of get this little, it gets like a, not a crust, but it gets like a firm, something firm on the top. Don't worry about that at all. That's not your problem. The one thing I do not do is when I roast them, I do not put any oil at all on them or seasoning, of course, because remember, these are pumpkins. I don't know what I'm going to be using them for. I'm going to be freezing the pulp, and I might be using them for pumpkin bread or for pumpkin pie. And you do not want to have like that seasoned or have oil on that. You don't want any. You want it to be just plain pumpkin. Okay. So when I scooped out the seeds of this jack-o'-lantern, not jack-o'-lantern, but it would be a jack-o'-lantern grade pumpkin, one that is not advertised in the store to be used for pies, or one that you would find at like a pumpkin patch, you know, the bigger ones that you'd stack. I had them stacked by my front door. Those seeds, again, I rinsed, I put them out to dry, rinsed them real good, rinsed all the pulp off of them, put them out to dry on this pizza pan. It's actually a pizza pan. They've just been air drying. And these are going to be toasted. We're going to toast these. You can toast them. We haven't decided if we want to toast them and use them for a snack. In that case, you would put a little oil with them and maybe season them a little bit with some garlic powder and maybe some salt or some cayenne or whatever you want it seasoned with. Or I just might roast them and freeze them to use later, as you would use like a pepita, which is a pumpkin seed. But a pepita does not usually have this hull on it, right? This shell on the outside. It has just a little kernel inside. But it's still the same thing. I mean, you can use these as just like you use pepita. It's you could I have some recipes for some Mexican Caesar salad, which uses pepitas, where you put them all in the blender and whiz that into the dressing, and that's good for that. Or use it for like in a pesto, like you would use a nut of any other kind of a nut. You can grind these up and use that in the same way. So I'm not sure. We haven't made a decision, but whatever they're going to be roasted, I'm not saving them because I don't know what kind of pumpkins they are. But I want to show you that when it came out, when I took it out of this, it really wasn't very pretty. It was really kind of ugly. And you just scrape that out with a spoon when it's soft, and it comes out, and I'm going to show you what it comes out because this one's going to look the same. Pretty much the same when I scoop this out. Let me move this here. You can see, I'm just going to take, and if that's too hard, I'm going to just go under that. And I'm going to just get as much of this as I can. Sometimes it's kind of stringy, is what I'm trying to say. You see, sometimes it's kind of stringy like that, and that does not look delicious. This does not look like what you sign on for when you buy a can of pumpkin, but that's actually what it looks like. Okay, if I could just peel this skin off here, this would work. On the outside. Because what's going to happen to this, after I get it all freed from the skin, is I'm going to puree it. See, it peels off really nicely once it's cooked. But you see how this is? It's all stringy, and you see it doesn't look pretty orange like you think it's supposed to look. It doesn't have to look pretty orange like that. Anyway, you keep all of this, and then what I did with it is I took it, and once I got that all cleaned off, I took it and I put it in a food processor and gave it a waz, as our favorite Jamie Oliver would say. Waz it up. Say waz it up or give it a waz. It's a waz. And it comes out. Wait till I get this skin off. And I'll show you what it comes out looking like. It's a little bit, I want to tell you why it's a little bit stiff. It's a little stiffer than it would normally be because I did this yesterday, or maybe even the day before. I roasted this pumpkin, and then I took it out of the oven, let it cool a bit, and then I stuck it in this big bowl, these quarters, and just put them in the refrigerator. I put it through a towel over top. Because I didn't, again, this is my laziness. I don't want to spend a day doing something like this. I want to break it up over a course of a couple of days. So that's what I did. And I kept it in the refrigerator so I had time to deal with it today. There we go. So it's cold, so it's a little stiff. But anyway, I'm getting all this just like that. It doesn't look very appetizing. Can you get this? Are you getting that? But that is going to be put, I need a towel. Oops. This is going to be put in my food processor, and I'm going to give it a waz, as Jamie Oliver says. And this was this one. It came out like this. Can you see how beautiful this puree is? It's just as smooth as anything. And this is what I'm going to freeze. Now, this one was a little stiff after I put it through the food processor. It's still, after I got it all broken down, it still was a little, I'm going to say stiff. So I just added a little, in that case, you just add a little tiny bit of water to just give it enough looseness that it's the kind of consistency that it would be if it had come out of a can. So it's recipe ready, and anything that calls for canned pumpkin, this could be used in its place. This is perfectly fine. It's going to taste the same. It's going to, even though this isn't as orange, this one was not as orange in the inside as probably this one's going to be. When this one is pureed, it's probably going to be really orange, like the canned pumpkin. But oh, it still tastes the same. We've made all kinds of things with it, and it still tastes the same. I'm going to come back on another segment and show you something else that I'm going to do with the pumpkin that I do not freeze. Okay? So stay tuned for that. Okay, you can close it.